All right, welcome guys. Welcome to another episode of Offbeat, the pod. Knicks Offbeat. We don't have Christian here. Charlotte is not here otherwise. Those guys are busy doing. I don't really know what they're doing. They just couldn't make the show. But you got me. I got a guest with me. I got another guest with me. Well, hold on. We're pointing down and we're pointing that way. I got Alex and Andrew. Andrew Claudio, obviously, you guys know him well from Knicks fan TV. Well, Alex from Knicks fan TV, and then obviously you guys know it, Andrew from Knicks Film School. So thank you guys for popping up to the show. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you guys making the time. Cheers, guys.
Well,
Cheers.
thank you for having
Alex,
us,
what's
man.
good, man?
I'm good, guys. How are you guys doing? Enjoying the summer? Enjoying the, outside of the Mikal Bridges news? It's been pretty tame unless you want to really just buy into the Carl Anthony Towns hype that's somehow circling around. Damn UCP and trying to stir the waves.
I was about to say Mr. Somehow is circling. I wonder where that originated, Alex. I wonder
Right.
where all of the hype started that all of us have been checking our phones every time Adrian Wojnarowski tweets to wonder if this is the notification that's going to send us into another frenzy like the Mikal Bridges trade did.
So since we're there, is there a place that kind of started? I mean, obviously, we don't want to speak too much for CP. It was his news to break. Shout out to CP. What do you? I guess we'll start here. We'll start in the beginning, I guess, right? Because we've gone. This has been a rough summer, for all the Knicks fans. Have had the highs and lows, but it's been pretty exciting. It's been an exciting summer. I want to say it hasn't been rough in a bad way. It's been a good way, but for the fans that are want to hold on to Julius Randle, that's kind of been the guy that's been included in that Carl Anthony Towns trade rumor. I don't think it can happen, especially now, right? Like, especially now, obviously, we're burying the lead a little bit with the Precious Achiuwa signing. We'll get to that. But Carl Anthony Towns, this team seems like it's probably done, right? At this point, unless you're going to include, and by the way, obviously, it looks like we're going to be signing it seems, it seems like this kind of alludes to Julius Randle signing the extension. Otherwise, I don't really know how we're getting anything else done. It seems like this team is all in at this point. Vegas likes our odds. I know some people at ESPN doesn't as well. It was a little news drop today that some executive doesn't believe that we made enough strides. But talk to me a little bit about that. Carl Anthony Towns, how do you like the fit? What do where are we at with that? We'll start with you, Alex.
I don't like the fit. I get the idea of adding a 3-point shooter. He was better on defense this year, but if you look at the Timberwolves, like he was still in that starting lineup. Like you have so many other guys who play defense at a higher level than him at their respective positions that it kind of masks, in my opinion, like his deficiencies on defense, especially when it comes to like lateral quickness. But I get the idea that you want to add a 3-point shooter to this team and try to space it out for Brunson to really get downhill and open it up. But I think the one thing that we constantly forget when we look at how this Knicks team is constructed is that we have two playmakers on this roster, one being Jalen Brunson, the other being Julius Randle. And I think we kind of overlook what Julius Randle was doing last year, especially in that month of January. And I get it's a small sample size, but even prior to, he was still giving you 5 to 6 assists per game. The guy knows how to draw double teams. Are there moments that he's going to make you scratch your head like, why would you make that type of decision? Absolutely. But I think at the end of the day, if you're looking for your two guys who really impact the playmaking on this team, you're looking at Brunson 1, Randle 2. And if you're looking to remove a guy as a playmaker, I don't know who on this roster is going to be that secondary playmaker, that can not only create for others, but also can score. And that's where I look at Randle. And that's why I think this team moving forward, you just have to stick with who he is as a player and just see how far you can go. And if I'm moving Randle, I want it for somebody who can also be a playmaker and be more dynamic and be that solidified guy. Like, I don't want to have questions like, oh, KAT could potentially be that good fit and then goes in that direction. So I think the Knicks are set where they are. And I think you just got to move with what you have on this team. You keep Randle, in my opinion, and I don't like I said, I get it, but it just, to me, it doesn't make sense at this moment, especially how this team has been operating, where you just look at how they've constructed. They really added a lot of 3-point shooting, not only to help Brunson get to his spots, but to open up for Randle too. And for a guy who can use his physical presence on the court, like, this is the team I think you look at, say, oh, okay, finally we gave him all the tools that he needs to succeed. Let's see if he could succeed with this. And that's how I think this Knicks team should move.
Claudio, how do you feel about the Towns, rumors, the fit?
Well, so offensively, I love the fit because it's adding another shooter to the mix. I think Alex makes a good point about what KAT isn't, and it's not a facilitator. He worked really well off of Ant and the gravity he created, but Anthony Edwards is the other playmaker next to Conley or Tequila Alexander Walker. Like, they have multiple playmakers on that team that lets KAT average his 3 assists a game and it not really hurt them. What the Knicks gained in Mikal Bridges is another wing that you could put around Randle, next to Anunoby, next to Brunson, next to DiVincenzo, and the multiple, like McBride, the multiple wings that can spread the floor. But what they lost was Isaiah Hartenstein, and friend of the pod, Monica McNutt came on with us right before the first. I don't think the finals had even ended yet, but it was like before the first rumblings that Hartenstein might leave were there. And she said, like, say the Knicks did lose Hartenstein, it would be a loss, but why can't Julius be that hub? Why can't the way he was playing in January translate into him being the guy that you're creating catch and shoot opportunities for when double teams are created? This is a guy in the 97th percentile in gravity each of the last 3 seasons without being a 3-point threat, really. Outside of that at most improved player season where he shot 40%, it's just a guy that attracts 2 to the ball no matter what. And in the month of January that Alex was referencing, this guy was hitting every open shooter, whether it be DiVincenzo or Anunoby. And it kind of gets lost. And shout out to DJ Zulo, my colleague at Knicks Film School. Jalen Brunson had a lot of easy catch and shoot opportunities that just disappeared once Julius Randle went down. So I think in a vacuum, KAT could absolutely work. I don't think Tibbs sees him as a center. I don't think he's like a good defensive center. And I think he's a 4. And if you're telling me like Julius Randle for this team or Karl-Anthony Towns for this team, I honestly know what I'd prefer. So I'm fine with Julius, especially if he's going to extend, and we'll go from there.
What's this obsession, right, that Knicks fans have with the shiny new toy, right? Like, it's never enough. Like, Dante DiVincenzo, what? Like, that's not a good signing. That's not going to do anything for the team. Turns out it did. Like, you keep continuity together. You add another factor, great shooting, that, we talked about continuity, that synergy that you have with a guy that can play together. We just don't like these boring things. We now got Karl-Anthony Towns. I think the reason, Mikal Bridges, the reason why we got Mikal Bridges, and I think a lot of people were excited about it, because it was that shiny new toy that we didn't think we could have, right? It's like, wait, I can play with this toy? Like, you said I couldn't have it, and then now you have it, you may overplay with it now. Maybe it's getting a little boring. Maybe it's losing its little luster. And now, obviously, we brought in Precious Achiuwa back, but again, it may have hit for whatever, you get that little boost where it feels good, and then you just go back to, oh, wait, we have Jericho Sims as our backup big, or break the glass big, as reports were out there. What is it with our Knicks, fandom? Is it just, I don't want to say like, and I don't think it's bad, but our Knicks fans just became so casual because of the losing over the years that we're kind of just checked out. Like, and we're just kind of like, we need that exciting. If we don't have that, then it's just like, it's boring, right? Like, to get that Dante DiVincenzo or the Mikal Bridges, sure, it's cool, but you got people on ESPN saying, I don't think it pushes them over yet. So speak to me a little bit about that. Is it also just that old Knicks jargon of they're just not good, and it's just all of the slow like stories that just have to die over time, that it's just like, wait, they actually are good, and I can't use that anymore. Talk to me a little bit about that. Maybe I gave some answers. So Alex, we'll start with you.
I think maybe it's part of it is the losing. I think part of it's also that you're looking at, I think the thing is, like, when you look at Julius, right? And some people are probably still upset from the thumbs down incident. He hasn't performed 2 years in the postseason, one due to injury. And I still want him to perform better, even through injury. If you're on the court, I look for you to still like figure out a way to adjust and just still make an impact in some manner. And the first year, look, it was his first time in the postseason. Didn't have really that much help outside of Derrick Rose and a sliver of Alec Burks. So there isn't really much to work off of from Randle. And that's what's so confusing is that Randle hasn't had a really good postseason. And then when you look at KAT, it's so up and down that it's like I don't see how that's like, it's not a true trajectory going up. It's like, it's still a question to me where it's like, you look at how he performed against the Mavs in the Western Conference finals, and your 3-point shooting just vanished. And outside of like a good game 1 fourth quarter appearance out of him, he didn't really show up. And so I think part of it is that one, Randle hasn't executed in the postseason. 2, I think it's not necessarily fatigue, but it's we see that we have Jalen Brunson, and it's what can we do to make sure that we could solidify this opportunity that has presented itself where this is a championship contending team. Some believe that KAT being that stretch 4 is what you need to take this team over the top. And I can understand that train of thought saying, hey, why don't we just move all in now and go get this guy? And then we really have all the names. And that's what he is, right? He's a name. He was a name coming out of Kentucky. He had that defensive presence, and then offensively he just showed up in the NBA. And so I think you see that and you're like, well, why don't we just add more offense to a game that's predicated on getting buckets? But at the same time, you need to play defense. And at the same time, you need playmaking. And so this is where it comes back to saying, I get the name aspect of it, but sometimes going after the name isn't necessarily what you need. And we saw that this last season where you get Dante, you shuffle the deck, you get OG, who he's like in this hybrid position where it's like a name, but not really a name. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, we got OG. We got like one of the best wings out there, but it's not like a guy who is going to be that hub himself, like a Jalen Brunson, or even like you could even say offensive hub like Randle, right? Like he showed something in the postseason where you were saying, oh, maybe he can add on to that and be that type of guy. But still, it's not like KAT, who came in as like, this is a superstar, potential star, superstar, wherever you want to teeter him on. And that's what we need to really take us over the edge. And so what I'm saying is, like, you look at Dante, you look at OG, guys who are excellent role players at their position, and look how far it took the Knicks. And we're talking about losing game 7 in the second round to a Pacers team that faced a diminished Knicks team due to injuries. And so for me, I'm like, why don't we just, I get the need, I get the name, I get the hype. We want to see flashy things all the time. But I think we want to see, one, we take the opportunity right now after, 2 decades of just struggles. And then Randle also not being the guy that we need him to be in the postseason. And you keep look at this year, injury. It's another question. It's like, if you extend him, like, is he still going to show up? Like, there's so many questions for him. There's so many questions for this team still. So I think that's where the Knicks fans are like, at least this guy's been in the postseason. Let's go with that rather than the mystery of what Randle potentially could be.
Drew, add in these wrinkles of what the Knicks are doing right, but boring, right? Like, to the casual fan, right? To that, bringing in a Maurice Cheeks, bringing in a big man coach, right? Bringing in one of the best player personnel guys and from the Mavs, like, these are not exciting things, but these are all, as Alex was just alluding to, like these small, intricate things that kind of help to build that championship. Not sexy, right? But speak to that along with what I first asked Alex with what's going on with why we're kind of so, I guess, cash, and it's nothing wrong with being casual, because sometimes you have to protect your heart that way. Just kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna take
it. Only hurts if you're a diehard that someone calls you a casual.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate when you're a diehard like us.
So I have a 2-part answer, because I think there's 2 questions at play here, and I think Alex spoke really well to the second part of it that I'll get to in a second. But I don't necessarily think Knicks fans are obsessed with the shiny new toy to trade for anymore. Because we went into this Leon Rose era, and I know Alex, you felt this. Like, oh, so this team's fun for now, but eventually they're all going to get traded for Embiid, Giannis. Like the big thing is going to eventually happen. Then on June 26th, 2024, at around 10 p.m., Adrian Wojnarowski told us that the big move was Mikal Bridges. And now the expectation has shifted to like, oh no, contention's here now.
Right.
Like they made the all-in move. They traded with their crosstown rival and gave up the pick package that we all expected was going to go out, and I think we all also got an attachment to the younger players that were drafted, the Emmanuel Quickleys, the RJ Barretts, we got attached to them, also expecting they'd go out in the big trade, and it was OG Anunoby. So the superstar trade was made, but it was for OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, which is different from expectations. And I'd argue a bit more effective because they got two complementary pieces that are every single team would want those two wings guarding and probably complementing your two best players. So I think I don't necessarily think Knicks fans are obsessed with the new toy. I think the more specific thing that they're obsessed with, and you guys have both hinted at it, is what are we going to get out of Julius Randle when it matters? And I don't know if that trust has ever been fully built in this fan base. The We Here season was amazing and came out of nowhere. Nobody wants to talk about, as you said, Alex, the pieces that were around him. All they see is what he was, what he shot from the field, what he did in that season, and specifically what he did in those 5 games against the Hawks. Then there's the way that the Miami series ended, and how the best they looked was when he was off the floor in both the Cleveland series and the Miami series. I understand he was hurt in both of those, and I've defended him and said that this is the best possible team that he's had with the Knicks, and I'm willing to give it one more shot, but I personally just don't think the trust has been established between him and the fan base, at least for playoffs is concerned. Great regular season player. This isn't a good stats, bad team guy, but this is a guy that now that we don't have first or second round expectations, we're looking to play late into May, and I'll just say it, into June. You got to know that he's someone that you can trust in your foxhole, and I don't know if the fan base as a whole trusts him just yet. And as far as the other part that Alex kind of spoke to, and that you allude to with like the marginal non-sexy moves, like, oh, we hired a competent assistant coach, we hired a personnel guy. Well, two things. One, I would argue the last 365 days of Knicks basketball has been extremely eventful. When you add in that a year ago, the only things that happened was Dante DiVincenzo in, Obi Toppin out. And since then, Emmanuel Quickly's gone, Quentin Grimes is gone, RJ Barrett is gone, Isaiah Hartenstein is gone, OG Anunoby's in, Mikal Bridges is in, Precious Achiuwa is in. Like, a complete overhaul of the roster has existed. And as you mentioned, where were the Knicks in championship odds a year ago? Well, now where are they now? So I'd argue this is what contending teams look like. The core is here. The moves are now on the margins, and we're now preparing to go to war. And if that makes me a casual that I'm preparing to go to war, then I guess I'm a casual,
Yeah, the sexy, isn't always, it's not sexy until it's sexy, right? Like when you're making a run for the first seed, which I think this team is capable of, that's sexy, right? How you get there is not always, talked to, like, nobody cares about kind of how you got in there. What's in the books is in the books. We haven't seen a team, at least in memory, a lot of people kind of, I don't want to say lazily, but if you had to, call this team, like what it reminded you of, a lot of people throw out Detroit Pistons, a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot, I've seen some people even say Golden State Warriors, obviously pre-Durant, which I think is kind of, I'd love that.
That was my take. I'll own that. That was my take.
So. Oh, is that yours?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that. So yeah, that's going around to the point where I didn't even know it was your take, Claudio. So also, I think I seen it on Real GM. Shout out to Real GM. It's
Yeah, I
Real GM's
shout
always
out to Alex. I said it in summer league at with CP. Like I said it at the round table that we had, and it's very specifically like I'm not saying the Knicks are the Warriors because the Knicks
right.
don't have Steph Curry about to enter his prime, right? I would argue that the 2013 version of the Warriors with Steph Curry is about as good as what Jalen Brunson was, and then Steph like took levels as a shooter, and really the Warriors leaned into that. What I'm specifically saying is there's a death lineup version of the Knicks that can exist if deployed correctly, and I have my hopes and my hesitations in one Tom Thibodeau that he will deploy it correctly. At least in my mind, we'll see what happens.
So Randall at
But
the 5.
so it's Randall at the 4, though.
4, okay.
Like Anunoby guards your center, and then
Gotcha.
Randall's your Hartenstein replacement. And so he did it during. If Precious Achiuwa is a 4, he technically was playing his 4 all the time as a center last year. So look, it depends who you talk to. Apparently, he wanted to experiment with Anunoby guarding centers throughout the season and just didn't get a chance to because I don't know if you guys remember, Anunoby was barely there during the season. So I am going to trust that he sees what I see and the creativity I saw offensively from this head coach after Randall went down was exactly the type of offense I wanted this personnel to run. The way he was running things through Hartenstein as a hub, the cutting that was finally being done, the ball movement that we saw, like it was so much less isolation. He was creating different looks. I have so much hope and confidence in what this team can be if deployed a certain way. And I think I gotta say, I know Tibbs has his reputation. He's got top 10 offenses each of the last 2 years. I think he's going to have another one this year and has a chance to be like even better if, he leans into not needing a true rim protector on the floor, which I don't think the roster dictates that he will. So
for sure. I mean, if you look at like Randall as that hub that you're talking about for Hartenstein, I mean, I think that's the one thing. That was the one thing when Randall joined the Knicks in that before his MIP season. There were moments where he would make a pass and I'm like, ooh, there's something there. I'm like, there is something there. Why don't you do a little more passing instead of your spin move into like 3 defenders? So definitely, like if you play him high post, I feel like he can find OG, Dante Bridges, Brunson. Like we still haven't seen a full 2-man game between him and Brunson yet. So there's just so much there, which is why I'm so hesitant to even. And look, I'm a guy who is blocked by Randall on Twitter. I'm a guy who has criticized him. I'm a guy who's like always questioned how good this guy is, but I'm at a point where what I saw last season, even with how clunky it was to begin, and after his slow start, this is a guy who's legitimately shape-shifted his game 3 times in 3 different versions. Like his MIP season, he wasn't as the bully ball guy as we saw him this past season, but it was effective enough as being a shooter, a guy who can find his mid-range shot, and then be a playmaker, the main playmaker for this team before you get Derrick Rose. Then he became this strict jump shooter, right? When you talk about that season where they go against the Heat in the second round. Then last year, he's just a guy who likes to get downhill and become a better playmaker. And so we've seen 3 versions of this guy. 3 times he's been an all-star in 3 different versions. Why can't we say this guy? I'm at the point where I'm saying, why can't this guy continue to learn and develop his game? And why I'm not saying to trust him in the postseason, but he now has all the tools. And to what Claudio was saying is that if you can deploy him as Hartenstein, as a guy that can pass from the high post, like that's just going to be different because instead of having a guy whose offense is getting rebounds and just, layups or just floaters, you legitimately have a versatile scorer playing high post. And so it's a guy who can face up, who can back you down, who can take some mid-range jump shots if need be. Like he can do that for you. And then if you have OG who can knock down a 3, Bridges who can knock down a 3, you're going to have Brunson who's going to knock down a 3. And then you say if you throw Dante in there,
that's
right?
What I'm saying. Yeah,
and then if you put those 4 out there next to Randall, there's no one in the paint except whoever's guarding Randall. And that's just a one-on-one matchups for him. Easy. easy money. So
Yeah.
you just got to live with it, man.
So-
I want to see it.
So, Alex, you're basically saying you're our Knicks Twitter without the fake deaths and politics that's going on right now. That's what you're saying.
Fake deaths. What's happening? I have
Dog, Alex, I found out about it today and I tapped out. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
going
It was
I'm
a little
gonna
quick
see
joke.
myself out and go watch the MLB trade deadline.
We don't want to touch fake deaths. It's kind of wild anyway. But let's get into politics. No, just kidding.
Oh God.
Let's go down. Let's go down the summer league. Let's touch the top guys that you rank. Obviously, you both were there. You guys saw some of the, the best.
Well, Andrew was there. I wasn't there.
I
I'm
was
talking
there.
about.
Yeah,
I was
Alex
there last
wasn't
year.
there. Yeah.
I was there
Yeah.
this year.
I forgot. Yeah, you were in Boston. We talked about the Boston actually not too long ago.
Yeah.
So Claudio, you were there. Tell me what you saw. If you had to rank your players, I know I have mine. I really liked Rokas, but unfortunately he's signed another. We're not going to see him. Rank your top. I guess I don't want to say 5 because it's probably not 5, but rank your.
Yeah, Andrew's like, holy cow, I was not ready for that.
I'm not ready for top 2. Like the tough part about the Knicks contending is Tyler Kolek's the only one that really matters right now when you're looking at I liked what Huckporty looked like as a project. And I think that's the adjustment that I had to make when I got to Summer League was like, oh, I'm used to the Knicks being featured.
Right.
And
who's going to be that guy this year?
Right. Like who's breaking the rotation? And none of these kids are going to matter, I don't think.
No
like
first
Tyler Kolek,
guys.
I think he has the upside because of his age, could potentially crack the rotation if as necessary. And I liked that Ian Bagley and multiple people reported that this guy is like the first man up ahead of campaign if necessary. I believe that too. His passing jumps off the page, especially when you're seeing it in person. I tweeted this out while in the arena for one of his games. Like he could find the I think I said he could find Bigfoot with a no look pass. Like his ability to break down a defense and find whomever on the wing is impressive. So I think he could work his way into the NBA rotation. I'm 8 deep before I get to the Knicks backup center. And then there's like Precious Achiuwa. Like I'm 9 deep before I get to even considering any of the players they drafted. It was nice to see the prospects and the potential in the kids at Summer League. This is what a contending team does. They look at Summer League as just an opportunity to see what could happen in a couple of years, not this is our starting 5 potentially, which was interesting when the Knicks played the Nets at Summer League. Like, oh, so your opening night starting 5 potentially is just barely beating the Knicks 13th through 17th man. Got it. Okay.
I mean, I gotta agree
there, but did you see anything aside from Tyler Kolek? I actually, you got Huckporty right here. We didn't see this.
Oh my gosh.
There you go. Rokas.
We are playing the kids. Okay.
There you go.
Great movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Daddy, eh? So yeah, we got some new kids. These guys are probably never going to sniff the court. Good feel good, gives us some new kids to talk about and say, hey, why don't they play? We know why none of these guys are not going to play. I think if anything, it speaks to when you're hearing Tyler Kolek being the backup to Jalen Brunson, these guys, like, campaign's probably not going to get any minutes, right? Like, obviously, like, this is a team that's locked in 1 through, 9, maybe 10 right now. I don't know, with Achiuwa re-signing. It's going to be tough to crack this rotation unless you get an injury. And I don't think anybody's – obviously, we went through probably the worst stretch in my memory. I don't ever remember the Knicks having that bad luck of injuries other than, like, the 99 year or something. I don't know, like that. Obviously, that's tough losing Larry and, don't want to go down that painful memory lane. Talk to me a little bit about, the kids that you saw, the potential. Obviously, they – it's Summer League is past, so it's not as sexy as we're talking about the sexiness and, stuff there. But talk to me a little bit about the team, Alex.
Definitely to Claudio's point, Kolek just popped off the screen. And so I do think he can crack the rotation. I think he would be that 10th guy. I think if Tibbs wants to go 10 deep, and if anything, what we saw Mike Malone do for the Nuggets when you bring in Christian Braun or like young players like that, you need to be ready. And I think if you're going to look for somebody who can just organize the offense for that second unit, I think why not give him a shot and just try to work him in there, because we still haven't seen that from McBride. Who you're going to rely on that second unit to really do so. I mean, I guess if you want to do Josh Hart to be like a Bruce Brown type role and just do basic pick and rolls and stuff of that nature, because he can get downhill, sure. But I think you got to just start weaning in like the young player that you drafted who you're looking at. If Begley's reporting that, within that organization that they see him above campaign, like just go to him and let's see what he can do off the rip just to be ready for that time period. Like, look, you go through this past season, you see all these injuries. How can we not just prep ourselves for that? Even if it's like a few minutes here and there and just see what it is, what he can do at the NBA level as a rookie. I still think that's all worth it. Dadier was, the interesting prospect for me to watch outside of Kolek, just because you could see the intangibles and how you want to utilize him on the court. I think to me, outside of the shooting that didn't really flourish in Summer League, the defense was there, right? You could be like, okay, he could stay in front of his guy. He can kind of mirror whoever he's guarding. The facilitating was really shocking to me. And, when you start watching videos of what he was doing internationally and especially like draft night, you're like, it looks like he's moving in like slow motion. It's like, I've seen this story before where you're like French slow motion player and Frank. I don't know about this. I don't know if I could buy, I don't know if I want to buy that stock, but in Summer League, I could say, okay, I could see the project. He's going to be in the G League for the most part and earning his stripes there. Out of everybody else, I think that one, he's the most intriguing one because that's the first selection that they made. So there's definitely a point of emphasis, in my opinion, that you want to develop him and see if he can be another wing that can come through the system and that you can utilize at some point down the line. So he's the other prospect. I think everybody else, man, to me is like, like if they're going to be in the G League, that's cool. And if they decide to make a name like during the G League regular season, that's great. But I'm looking at Kolek and I'm looking at Dadier as like the two guys the Knicks have really invested in to make some sort of impact. Kolek, I'm thinking this season, and you could say if I'm being delusional, whatever, but I think this season. But Dadier is somewhere down the line if he can get his offense together. Like, offense is going to be the shooting is going to be the big key for him. Can he translate to the NBA level? Because if he can, boy, then we're talking about a diamond in the rough type find right there.
Drew, you're the Knicks GM. You have your player exception. We just locked up Achiuwa. Who are you targeting, if there's anybody in mind? And if the answer is nothing right now and you're just waiting for, the buyout market, that's fine too. If there's anybody on the market now that you feel like should go take a swing at, look at, who are you looking at with that last taxpayers mid-level exception?
I think I'm set with what the roster is at the moment. I think the new CBA rule that this now becomes a trade exception is important. I think Brock Aller knew that, which is why Precious Achiuwa signed for what he signed. In years past, there'd be many a player that I'm sure I could, like Gordon Hayward or a player like that would just be a good veteran to put out there. And I think this is the deepest the Knicks have ever been in my life. And there's nobody that I could even fathom. We just had a conversation about Tyler Kolek. I would not want a veteran to come in here and jump him in the rotation or in the pecking order for that matter. So I think they're ready, like I said, to go in with this current crop of players, and we'll see what happens. I'm not 100% sold. Precious Achiuwa will be the backup center all season. We'll see what happens.
Andrew's in his baseball season saying crop of players farm league.
Man,
we're talking here in baseball season.
And give me your projection for the team. How many wins? What do you got for me?
Predictions?
Yeah, for like the season, how many wins would you say we get? We'll win?
I said 60 the day of the Mikal Bridges trade. I am not backing off. This is a 60-win team.
60 wins. Damn.
I love it. Especially considering the in-season tournament And you look at that, I think that's a little bit overlooked. I don't think enough people are looking at that, paying attention enough to it, because when you think about it, we lost a fair amount of games having to play the Boston Celtics, 5 times, the Bucks 6 times.
We lost 2 extra games. We lost an extra game to the Bucks. We lost an extra game to the Celtics.
So what was our record? We ended the season
50 and 32. So if you look at it, this was my argument against the Sixers, that they ended up getting penalized for missing the in-season tournament by getting an extra game against Washington and an extra game against Atlanta. The Knicks, their reward was an extra road game in Milwaukee and an extra road game in Boston last season. I think, and Alex, we went over this the last pod we did together. The Knicks were 26-5 when OG Anunoby played. I'm just believing that math until it doesn't exist anymore. Now, he may not play 50 games next season. I'm hoping, with as deep as this team is, that we get 60 games out of him. So, like,
you were hoping for 60 games out of OG Anunoby.
Fine, give me 50. Fine.
I was about to say, I was like,
number you want to go to?
I was like,
40,
I was like
43, 47, 67, 50. Those are his last 4 seasons.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying that they don't lose when he plays. I know the 5 losses. Here's the 5 losses when the Knicks had OG Anunoby. Josh Hart spoke to it during the finals. The game that Luka didn't play in Dallas, that they all took the first half off, and it took Tim Hardaway Jr. hitting 9 threes or whatever. Kyrie getting 45 that night. And the Knicks were a rebound away from tying that game in the last minute. Then the Martin Luther King Jr. day when Brunson didn't play. Then the second night of a back-to-back, OG's first game back in Chicago, where Brunson played horribly, and the Knicks, second night of a back-to-back. Fine. Then Joel Embiid has 50 and should have been ejected in the first quarter.
Right.
We go to the playoffs. And then the other one, they forgot how to play basketball the last 30 seconds of the game, and Tyrese Maxey turned into demigod. Those are the Knicks' 5 losses with Anunoby. They don't lose when he plays. So why would I think this team loses more than 20 games?
Alex, I agree with that. I agree with the logic of they're not going to lose that many. I just think if you're banking on him playing, okay, if OG plays 60 games, it is way more than 60 then, based on that math. I gotta say that. If OG's playing 60 games, that is way more.
They're gonna go 50 and 10 in those 60 games, exactly. So I just need 10 and 12 to get 60 wins the rest of the season.
Oh my god!
Right? Like, is it not? Like, if you get 60 games out of OG Anunoby, that's got to be a first.
That's success.
Yeah,
that's success. If he plays 60 games prior to him getting hurt, I'm resting him for the rest of the season. I'm being hyperbolic.
There's your 10 and 12. They'll be 50 and 10. He'll have everything locked up, and he can go playing on a minutes limit. I'm down.
Yeah, for sure. But
again, same question. You're the GM. And if it's nothing, you're riding out and you're good. That's cool too. You see what else was out there on the buyout market. What do you do right now? You got your taxpayer mid-level exception, and then give me the record for the team, and then we'll get up out of here.
I'm going to keep it boring and just agree with Andrew because there's not much to add to this. I actually kind of like Precious as the backup 5 because he did a solid job as a backup 5 for this team. So. And even when both him and Mitch were out, he did a fine job being a starter too. So if that's your backup 5, a guy who brings a lot of energy off the bench, on some nights he can shoot the 3. I think you're fine with that. So there's not really much. And I want to see Kola get that 10th spot. I don't want anything to impede him, as Andrew said. So I'm going to agree with Andrew. What you just keep this team the way that it is now with the win prediction. I would love to see 60. I would love to see 60. That would be that would be fantastic. Then you're talking about we're really on par with the Celtics. I just think it'll take 1 year to really get to that level. I think this whole year they're going to need to gel. So I'm going to go a little less. All right, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to say 57. But I do think that this team the following season could get where Andrew's talking about and then exceed that. And then we're really there. Because I think when you put these teams together, it takes time to gel, even throughout a full season. And Tibbs even mentioned it on the Roommates podcast. The Knicks have a way of just surging towards the end of the season. Even with RJ, Quick, whoever has been on this team, they come out of the gates a little slow. It's like a jalopy, right? Like you gotta crank it to start it, pause, but then it's like once they get going, they're going. So for this team, I think they'll be fine. I think they're gonna rev it up at the end of the season, but it's gonna be the next season where they really take off, and then we're like, oh yeah, this is the team. This is what we've been waiting for.
So 57 wins, Alex.
57.
Why do you hate them?
Why?
Why do you hate
I'm
the
not.
Knicks?
I'm not Macri. Okay, you
Why
cannot
don't
do
you
this to me. I'm
believe
not
in
Macri.
them? Why?
Why don't I believe? I am not Macri. Do not do this to me.
I got killed for this on Knicks Twitter. Wild place it is. And it was a wild statement when I said it at the time, you know, and a little bit was emotional when I said we lost the OG Anunoby trade, and the reason why I said that was because I believe Leon. Shout out to Leon, you know, and a Leon Rose film. Shout out to Leon, but I felt like he made that trade feeling like I'm going to get OG Anunoby on the cheap, you know, and shout out to OG Anunoby. He outplayed what he thought was going to be on the cheap. So then he went out there, didn't get him to sign under that time frame that we had to sign him on, where it was like, okay, you can sign your free agents. We ended up doing it, but it was still a little bit less. We ended up doing it, got close to that. We freaked out a little bit. I'll say I freaked out. I freaked out a lot, right?
Okay.
Freaked out a lot. I was like, it's not going to happen. We lost the trade. We should have kept the kids. The kids. We should have kept the kids. We didn't keep the kids. But no, like at the time it was emotional. And at the time, like I said, I thought it was a L, and we ended up saving some money. We ended up signing for $36 million. I think a lot of, you know, everybody goes out there, he's signing for 42. The average is 42. Sure. That's what people remember. But I think we got to remember it's $36 million. I have to remember myself to breathe, because every time I think about OG Anunoby missing time, I just want to hit the air and do wild things. But yeah, that's all we got, man. I really appreciate you guys. Andrew, tell the good people where they can find you.
You can find me at Knicks Film School. Everywhere pods are available, on our YouTube channel, of course, our newsletter. You can find me on Twitter at @AndrewJClaudio_. And yeah, you can find me hanging out with Alex come football season, because our JATS, I don't know if we're allowed to acknowledge them, are hopefully going to have a season that lasts longer than 4 plays this year.
I would hope so. But that's, you know, after, you know, one travels to Egypt.
Yeah. Or becomes the vice president. Who knows? Where the direction.
I thought we weren't talking about politics.
Fortunately, our quarterback forces us to. So,
Alex, tell the good people.
He puts us in the darkness.
Bingo.
But
Alex, tell folk where they can find you.
I appreciate you for having me on, my man. And you can find me over at Knicks Fan TV, co-host over there. You can go check out the articles. Go out to KnicksFanTV.com. Check us on all platforms. You can find us on social as well. Just type in Knicks Fan TV anywhere. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you name it. We're all over the place. And you can find me, Alex Trataros, aka the Tratacaster. You can see the handle right here on, if you're watching on YouTube, at Tratacaster101. I'm on all social media platforms with the same handle all over the place. So if you want to follow me on IG, Twitter, as you can go to find other content.
Yeah, man. And appreciate you boys popping in again. You watching Offbeat the Pod. My screen went back. Offbeat the Pod. You guys go ahead and follow Offbeat the Pod, Knicks Offbeat, on Twitter and on your YouTube, all that good stuff. We're trying to get to 1,000 followers so we can go live, guys. So get us there. Had a couple itches here, or hiccups here, I should say. Wasn't able to go live for you guys, but go ahead and check the replay of this. If you're watching this now, obviously you're checking the replay. But yeah, again, appreciate you boys for popping in. We out here.